On this episode of the Innovative Schools podcast, we're sitting down with Principal Baruti Kafele to talk about leadership in the classroom, leadership at the school level, and what it means to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Come on, let's learn together. Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of the Innovative Schools podcast. I'm Jordan.
My name is Will.
Hey, I'm glad to be doing a podcast with you again.
Me too, man. I'm glad to be back.
It's great. It's fun times. Today we're talking about we're just going to see where this conversation goes a little bit. Our guest on the podcast today is someone that I've had the opportunity to work with for several years, seen him, read some of his books, seen him present, but he's been around for a while. And I always get something from what he says. So we're not going to sit around for too long. We're going to get right into it. And we have Principal Baruti Kafele with us. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm on fire. I'm good. I'm glad to be here as well.
That's awesome.
Hear that.
Well, I'm sorry, Will. I talked over you. What were you saying?
No, I was saying glad to hear that. You know, he's not new to this. So
He's not.
It was great to have him here.
Yeah, I feel like he has some stuff he could teach us about how to do this. It's really the voice. I don't understand how he has that voice that he has. We were watching, we were talking a little bit before the recording. I found your archive YouTube page of some of your early presentations and interviews. And I'll tell you what, I could close my eyes and you sound the same then as you do now. I mean, just that sultry voice. Our listeners are really in for a treat listening to this one, but.
You know what? I'm gonna say something about that. I am disappointed in myself that I haven't done more with my voice, particularly around voiceover. Now, of course, I still have time, but I'm complimented on my voice 7 days a week. You know, it's a rare day that someone, you know, like customer service. Anything. It's a rare day that somebody doesn't give me a compliment on my voice. So I'm asking myself, well, why are you not doing more with it beyond speaking? You know, there's so much more. So maybe you just gave me the fire that I needed to
there you go.
Pursue something.
Hey, I'll keep my ear to the ground, and if I hear something, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
we'll get you in there. But that's awesome. So, Principal Kafele, I wanted to go. I talked a little bit about your archive YouTube page, but I do want to go back to the beginning of your journey in education. And some people may know you who are listening, and some may not. Just some quick stats I found about you. You have 14 books currently.
Yes.
It's 14. Wow. You just had a new one come out kind of recently, or?
That's right.
Yeah. You have 14 books, over 3,000 keynotes, workshops, parenting seminars, student assemblies.
That's right.
And over 35 years of serving the education community.
That's right.
That is a tremendous achievement. I mean, you've been all over. But I want to go back to your beginning. And what was your first job in the education environment?
Yeah. I didn't study education in undergrad school. I studied marketing, but midway through, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. But I didn't know how that was going to happen. I didn't know of the alternate route programs, et cetera. So I found out that New York City had an emergency, had a crisis, a teacher shortage, that they were practically hiring anybody with a degree. So I went over and they interviewed me, and they asked me one verbal question, and I think I took a 2 essay examination, right? And yeah, 2 essays and 2 1-pagers. They threw 3 scenarios at me altogether, with the verbal and the 2 essays. They said, "Very good, you passed. Go find a job." And they gave me a list of schools that had vacancies, and I chose one in Brooklyn, New York City, in Crown Heights, PS 221. And the principal interviewed me that morning for a few minutes, and she said, this was November of 1988, and she said, "Can you start tomorrow?" And I said, yeah, but I was so scared. And but I went, and it all began there. And I stayed in it. I enjoyed my year and decided, let me come back home to my home city, East Orange, New Jersey, and get certified correctly, and did, and hence here we are. here we are.
So what was your first what did you teach in that
I taught
first year?
elementary education, fifth grade, and
Okay.
consider everything I said about my that I've told everybody about my high school years. I spent a lot of time in high school. I spent 5 years in high school. I had some challenges, and
Hmm.
didn't know who that was inside. So my mother sent me to 4 different schools to try to save me from myself, and nothing was working. Graduated in 5 years, and then spent the next 5 years doing little to nothing, and then went to a school here in Jersey called Kane University, and graduated summa cum laude. Um,
Wow.
and
Wow.
and and it surprised a lot of people, but it didn't surprise me. I found myself. And I knew I wanted to teach, but I knew I was in that major. But when I found out about the shortage in New York City, then I said, okay, there's my exit from corporate America and my entrance into education. And again, I loved it and I stayed in it. And here we are, 2025, and still going strong.
Yeah.
At what point do you think you realized that you were in the wrong field and you knew you wanted to go into education?
Yeah, and you all have seen at the Innovative Schools Summit a quote that I put on the screen often, from the book The Miseducation of the Negro, written by Dr. Carter G. Woodson in 1933. Well, I stumbled on that book, and it had a quote, which I'm going to quote since it's short, where he said, "When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or go yonder.
Mm.
He will find his quote unquote proper place and he will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He'll go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he'll cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary." That quote,
Mm.
and subsequently that book, said to me, "You are a classroom teacher." Right? You are a classroom teacher. So I just had no idea how I was going to get into it, because I wasn't going to start over on my major. So I didn't know that there were alternate pathways to get into school systems, emergency certifications, etc. I hadn't lived enough life post sleeping for 10 years to know what was out here. So I came to that discovery, and that's how it started in New York. So, best decision. I know now that I was born to be in education. And quite
Hmm.
frankly, if teachers were making a little bit more money back in those days, I probably would have never left the classroom, because as much as I loved
Mm.
the principalship, it didn't equate to being in that classroom with them babies every day.
Hmm. So let's talk about that transition from the classroom to principal. So how many years did you spend in a classroom?
7 years.
7 years. And
Yeah.
then
Mm.
what was it that kind of motivated you into becoming a principal and starting down that path?
Yeah, I love the question. My first year, going back to Brooklyn for a second, although it was a good year by my standards, it was a horrible year, right? But
Mm.
but looking at it realistically, I know I had a good year. My first year, when I got back home here in Jersey, um, those students who I'm still in touch with a lot of them, and that was in 1992, 93 school year. Because no, I did some running around. I wrote a book, and then I opened up a bookstore. Right, I sold books. I sold African American literature. So I had a
Hmm.
bookstore, and I was an author. So I spent 2 years with that. Then I went back into the classroom in '92,
Mm.
and that year, when I look back on it, I'm not satisfied with it. Although a lot of those young people, they're in their 40s now. I'm still in touch with them via social media, and when I write posts that indicate my first year wasn't good, they're always, for some reason, they pop up during those posts and say, "No, no, no, that's not true. You were awesome. I'm the person I am today because you were my teacher in fifth grade, even though that was your first year in Jersey teaching." Right. So I go into that year, and that summer, it was like, you think about the old Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson, before he was making all that money, he was old school in terms of the gyms he worked out in. You know, there was some damp, dusty place, and he's just going at it, trying to get himself great. So I kind of borrowed from that, not in terms of the basement or anything like that, but that summer I spent the entire summer, no vacation, just getting mentally prepared for the next school year. So we're saying we get out in June. School doesn't start till the day after Labor Day in September. All that summer, I'm getting mentally right. I'm getting mentally right. I'm getting mentally right. So so that year, I say this to this day, of all the years of education that I've been in, my best year was that year, that second year in East Orange, New Jersey. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, I've never had a year like that, right? So at that point, I'm flirting in my mind. Well, you can take that, what you did this year, and transfer that to the principalship. So, but I'm not sure yet. So I go another year, and then I said, and it was phenomenal. So then I said, yeah, you're a principal. So I enroll in graduate school and become and get my master's degree in education administration. I graduate in 96. I started in 94 and I graduated in 96. But here's the thing that really seals the deal. In 96, I was named the school teacher of the year, the district teacher of the year, the county teacher of the year, New Jersey State finalist teacher of the year. Now I know, okay, you got to go into this principalship because you got to bring that. But in the meantime, I got a lot of older people who see, I should say seasoned people, who are like, you teacher of the year at those levels, you just got here. Right, you just got here in '92, and now it's '96, and you New Jersey State finalist, teacher of the year. I say, hey, we doing some things that are a little bit different in my environment. You all are focused on closing the achievement gap. I'm not. I'm focused on closing what I coined the attitude gap. So they said, what do you mean?
That's a common saying I've heard you say a lot.
Yeah, all the time.
That attitude gap.
Wrote a book about it, closing the attitude gap. They said, what do you mean by attitude gap? I said the gap between those students who have the will to achieve excellence and those who do not. But then I looked at the staff and I said, I can't confine the attitude gap to children. I said, let's look at staff. The gap between those educators who have the will to be amazing at their craft and those who do not. So all those years in education, even these 14 years as a full-time consultant, I'm still focused on attitude. I'm not focused on the nuts and bolts of achievement, because my premise has always been from day one, if I can change the attitude, the achievement will take care of itself. This matters exponentially.
Yeah, that's so true. I was talking to Michael Bonner. Have you met him before?
I know. We're friends. Yeah.
Good. Love Michael. We had him on the podcast earlier this season, but I was talking to him offline, and we were just talking about, he has that same kind of mentality that you're talking about, of the attitude of both the teacher and the student so greatly impacts the success. If a teacher believes a student can be successful, it can change the entire outcome of
absolutely
of that student. And I think that's such an important thing for all of us, and not just for the student, but as getting a little bit into as we were talking about you being a principal in your principalship, a principal's belief in their staff, of the people that are under them, the teachers and the support and everybody who's there in the school, belief that they can make a difference as well, I think is crucially important for us to just believe in each other and have that attitude of success.
That's right. Absolutely.
I think is great. So you became a principal. How long were you a principal for?
14 years.
14 years. Goodness. And then, so in the same vein of what motivated you into principal, what motivated you, I guess, into what you're doing now, which is writing more books, doing more speaking, and all that stuff.
Consulting and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's actually the question, capital letters, the question, because most people in the world know me as a presenter. They don't know me as a
Mm-hmm.
principal. The only thing they know about me as a principal is that I used my name, Principal Kafele, right? But
Yeah.
they don't know what I've done. They may listen to a bio, that type of thing. They may have sat in some sessions of mine and I talked about some of what we did. So that's really the question. Let me answer that. When I went to undergrad school and I went through my metamorphosis, the metamorphosis is because singularly I stumbled upon African American history. That's it. Drop the mic. I stumbled upon African American history. I didn't know anything. So therefore, I didn't know who that was in my mirror. I did not know, historically speaking, culturally speaking. I stumble on African American history, and for the rest of undergrad school, I'm not sleeping anymore. And I'm using that figuratively, but I'm barely sleeping. I'm reading around the clock. I'm doing my coursework. I'm going to class, but because I'm being introduced to myself historically, that coursework is very easy for me because for the first time in my life, I have an understanding of the shoulders upon which I stand historically, which prior to that, I had no idea. I couldn't even talk to you about Martin Luther King Jr. I should say Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I didn't have it for whatever the reason, and that's a whole other discussion. But I can tell you
Sure.
why. But I didn't have it. So now I'm doing all this reading. Well, guess what? My heroes were people who wrote and stood before microphones. Those were my heroes. I wanted to emulate what they did. I literally wanted to do what these people did. I wanted to write books. I wanted to be able to speak to the masses of people. But here's the problem. Who am I going to write a book for? And who would want to
Mm.
hear me? I have nothing to talk about. I have absolutely nothing to talk about with the exception of what I did in undergrad school, right? That's all I got. I said, okay, well, there's an audience out there that's willing to hear what you did in undergrad school that hasn't accomplished what you've accomplished. So I graduated in 86 and my first speech was 86. And I was literally talking about the things I did to go from where I was to what I became as a student. And quickly my audience became children and parents. So I
Mm-hmm.
spoke in at PTA meetings. I spoke anywhere somebody would have me, all over New Jersey, all over New York City, as far as Philadelphia, any night of the week. Some weeks, 5 nights a week, every week, talking to audiences of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 people. Right. So these were my heroes, these people writing these history books, these folks giving these speeches. But then there's another hero I had in terms of microphones, and these were motivational speakers, your Les Browns of the world, your Zig Ziglars of the world, and I can go on and on. These were heroes of mine too. I said, man, I just want a mic. That's all I want. I just want to write a book. So in 1990, my first child was born, my son. And I had the lowest income between myself, my wife, and I, so I became Mr. Mom. So I was home every day, unemployed, and my son would sleep most of the day. So I said, okay, while he's asleep, I can write a book on parenting. Even though I've only got an infant child, I know what a parent
Yeah.
needs, yeah, in terms of what I did in undergraduate school. So I
Yeah.
wrote a book. It's called The Black Parent's Handbook to Educating Your Children. That book became the Essence magazine, Black women's magazine, very popular magazine, the number one best-selling book, nonfiction, in their sales rank. But but for another time, because that speaks to my hustle. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole other conversation in terms of my
We're gonna have
hustle.
like 6 podcasts at the end of this.
Yeah,
We're just gonna line them up, get them back on,
that's
and
what we
talk
gotta
some more.
do. Because my hustle was strong, and that's what got that book out there, and it got my name out there more. So just to make a very long story short, in 2004, I spoke, since we're with AccuTrain, I won't mention the name of the conference, but I spoke at a
Thank
at
you.
a conference,
Yeah.
and they gave me a 300-seat room as an unknown breakout presentation presenter. and breakout session presenter. And it freaked me out. I was psyched out. I'm like, I went to the conference on a Friday and went to sessions, but I kept stopping by that room knowing I was going to speak there Monday. And I said, man, this is going to be a disaster. I'm going to be speaking in a room with nobody in there, maybe 5 people, because that's what I was accustomed to, 10 people in a session. I get to the room about an hour early that Monday morning. It's in New Orleans. Get there about an hour early. I sat outside the door. Nobody knew who I was. And I watched the people going in. And once it was over 300 people in that room, someone came outside and said, "That's it, everybody. No more." And people were begging, "You got to let me in. You got to let me in." I'm like, oh, my God. So I go in there. And I do this 1-hour presentation on using this overhead projector. It wasn't no PowerPoint yet. This was 2004. I mean, it existed, but most of us didn't have it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So then the folks, I wasn't expecting to get business out of that. I just wanted the experience of giving a presentation at a national conference. So the folks said, "Do you have a business card? We want to invite you out." They're yelling, right? In fact, they gave me a standing ovation, a breakout session. Can you imagine that? A breakout session, right? So then they said, "We need you." They said, "Wait, you have business cards?" I don't have no business cards, right? I'm like, I just came in to give a presentation.
I just showed up. I don't know.
Yeah, I had 10 cards. I put them on the table. 10 cards. Watch this, y'all. I had the overhead projector sitting on the same table with that glass top, right? Imagine 300 people storming the table for 10 business cards. I told them I only had 10. Imagine 300 people storm the table. Well, what did they do? They knocked the table over, the glass shattered, and
Wow.
I want y'all, the people who will hear this, I want y'all to hear me real good on this. Today is September 15, 2025. That happened in April 2004. I'm going to say it again. I am still riding that wave. See, so in other words, whatever the listeners know about Principal Kafele, don't pick up in like 2010, 2015. No, go back to 2004. And that wave, how them waves work, right? I'm still riding that same wave because business flowed from that day. And it just kept spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. I'm yet to call someone and say, can I send you my material? I'd like to speak at your whatever, right? I'm still riding that wave from 2004. So I think I'm saying to somebody out there, we never know when opportunity is going to knock. But whenever it does, bring your best self. So whenever you step out, whatever it is you're trying to do with your life, bring your best self always. Well, that day in April of 2004, I brought the best Principal Kafele that I could bring, not suspecting that in 2025, I'd still be riding the same wave. But trust me, I am.
You had no idea what that energy that you were bringing was going to do just for the next 20 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And we
real
we
quick,
don't know when that's going to end.
I forgot. So your question, after 2004, I'm able to be that guy, that writer, that speaker. So then I went ballistic writing books. I said, I can be him now. I went ballistic giving speeches. I can be him now. So my heroes back in them days, them civil rights folks, those historians, those motivational speakers, now I can do what they do, not the way they do it. I had to find my lane. And I found my lane, and I stay in my lane. And every now and then I'll get a call or an email from people who want to take me out of my lane and ask me to speak on things that I know nothing about and offer a lot of money. And I always say, that money real good, but it's not my lane. And I don't know that I could bring to your conference, your school, your district, that which you've seen of me speaking on something I've got no passion for. So I stay in my lane. It's very narrow. That way I don't collide with people, right? And we get it done.
Yeah. That's true. The things that you speak about, you have a lane, but it's It's a very powerful lane. It's
Appreciate
one that when we are at the Innovative Schools Summit and after you've spoken, there's a palpable change in the way people feel about their impact in the classroom and in their school.
Appreciate
A change for good. And we definitely want to get into, it's been great hearing your story and where you started and where you came, because I think it's really important for people to understand that you're not just a guy that shows up and starts motivating educators. You've stepped into the classroom, into principal, and seen the needs. And I get a sense that you're very driven by wanting to bring up those around you and pull them along.
Yeah.
You're someone who's not just doing this for yourself, but you see needs in the classroom and needs in schools, and you're trying to address that. And so we're going to take just a quick break, and that's the area of Principal Kafele that I want us to get into next. So listeners, hang out for just a minute, and we'll be back.
Learn from the best in education on AccuEd.com. AccuEd.com is our subscription-based service that we offer for educators just like you. We have over 40 masterclass-style courses that get you more than 80 hours of training. These courses cover a multitude of subjects like leadership in your school, to climate and culture, to even just classroom management, and so much more. And this training is from the real experts like Baruti Kafele, Michelle Borba, John Almarode, and even Michael Bonner. We release a new course every month, and you'll be able to start applying these strategies as soon as your next day in the classroom. Go to AccuEd.com to get started. If you use promo code PODCAST at checkout, you get 10% off your first 6 months. Visit AccuEd.com and start learning from the pros today.
Hey, Innovative Schools podcast listeners, this is Jordan. I wanted to tell you guys about the Innovative Schools Summit. It's something we're very closely related to, as you can tell by the name. It's how we get access to all of these experts to be able to record these podcasts and things. But what the summit is, it's about a week long where we get a whole bunch of experts in the field of education together in one place to teach you guys, to teach you all types of things, to teach you things like innovative teaching strategies or discipline, classroom management, and then even into things like how to handle bullying and things like that. It's just a wonderful time to come together with a couple thousand other educators and these experts and learn from them. There's all types of people that we have present at these, many of whom have been on this podcast. People like Michael Bonner, Steve Spangler, Gary Brooks. The list goes on. Pretty much everyone on the podcast has been at a summit at some point in time. So if you like this content that's on the podcast, you will love what happens at the summit, being able to learn directly from them. We have about 5 a year all over the country in 2026. We have New York, Orlando, Las Vegas, Nashville, and San Antonio. And it's sprinkled throughout the year, so hopefully there's one that has dates that fit with you. For details for that, check out the link in the show notes or the description, and we hope to see you there. If you are there, try and find us. We'd love to say hi and talk to you and get your ideas for the podcast. So hopefully, we'll see you there. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Innovative Schools podcast. It's Jordan here with Will and Principal Kafele. We just finished talking about his whole journey from what motivated him to take the different steps of getting into the classroom and then into principalship and then into what he's doing now of consulting, writing books, and everything like that. I want to, just before we took the break, you quickly, I'm not sure we actually mentioned it, so if you're listening, you may not have known, but if you're watching, Principal Kafele, you lifted up a mirror for a second, and I find that a little odd thing to have just sitting on your desk there, but I know that there's also a reason that you have that mirror there. Can you just explain a little bit about that mirror and what you do with that?
Yeah, I have, I don't go anywhere without this. The last time I spoke at the Innovative Schools Summit, I realized that I left my mirror backstage, and I had to ask the audience. As a matter of fact, I did that in New York too. So New York and what was that last one? Vegas. Both times I forgot my mirror, and I had to ask the audience for a mirror. So they gave me these mirrors that are part of their makeup kit. And I had to use that because I'm at a point in my professional life, I've been at this point for a long time, that I cannot do presentations without this. I gotta, and for those who are listening, without the mirror, in my hand, right? I'll put it in my pocket from time to time, but I have to have it. And this is the reason why. Because of what it's symbolizing in everything Principal Kafele, right? It's symbolizing game film. So in the sports world, for those of you that could care less about sports, teams, they don't just practice for their next opponent. They probably spend more time watching the film of the previous game and the film of their next opponent than they spend time practicing, because the film allows you to see everything that happens. So let's talk about the film, not of the next opponent, but the film of the team, of themselves. So now they get to look at all the nuance. They get to see what worked, what didn't work, why it didn't work, how it worked, or whatever. So they're breaking it down, they're analyzing it so that they can get those answers. And then that film study forms the basis of practice. So for me, talking to educators for a living, and children, I might add, I'm saying, educator, you got to break down your film. You can't just string 2 days together and not hit the pause button and dissect, critique, analyze your film. But you don't have to watch film from a camera. The mirror will suffice, and you don't even need the mirror handy. What I want you to do is engage in very intentional, deliberate, purposeful self-reflection. So self-reflection is first. Just hit the play button and just reflect on your day, non-judgmentally. Just reflect on your day.
Yeah.
But then secondly, you want to go back and look, but you want to look at it with a critical eye. You want to self-assess. I say to teachers and administrators all the time, do not wait for your evaluator of record to assess your performance, because you don't have that kind of time to wait. Your students don't have that kind of time to wait. You want to assess your own performance, but you want to be brutally honest with the assessment. If you're not honest with the assessment, then this whole exercise is simply a waste of time. You got to be brutally honest with it. Of course, you can have accountability partners, thought partners, all that kind of thing, but you may not have access to them all the moments that you want them. But you do have this, but you just got to be, meaning your mirror, but you got to be honest with the person in your mirror. So after that self-assessment, then the natural next step would be self-adjustment. You got to make a shift. You got to make a change, because you found some flaws. You found some deficiencies. You found some areas where you can just do better. So you make the adjustment toward self-improvement. So you're not looking to become good to great in one day. You're just looking for incremental growth. So if you're here, those of you who are watching on the video, then tomorrow just get here, an inch higher, right? Next day, get here, an inch higher. That's all, right? And then by the time and you keep doing that, you'll be at the ceiling in no time, right? But you gotta be methodical about the whole process. And I also say it's better if you write it. So write out what that day was, as you're reflecting, as you're assessing. Then the adjustment, you just simply write it as goals. And then here's my goals for tomorrow. That's the adjustment for tomorrow. And then you write a plan to go along with it. But you never lose sight of this fifth level, which is self-care and self-preservation. That matters as well. You got to preserve yourself for the long haul. I was at a convocation the other day that I was the speaker, but they award the educators who've been there 25 years, 30 years, 40 years. But they had somebody, I never seen this one before, 50 years. 50 years. That's a long time to be in the classroom. That's longer than most of the teachers in the building have been alive. So 50 years, 50 years.
It's a long time to be anywhere.
Yeah, that's
honestly.
right. So you got to make sure that you are preserving yourself, right? You got to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. All that matters.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. To me, I think about that. I try and self-assess often of what's going on, but I think a really key to that is it's not beating yourself up. It's being honest, but not being, I don't know, like mean, I guess. But to yourself, you have to look and say, I didn't do well here. I did do well there. This is how I need to fix this. This is how I need to, this is what I'm going to try tomorrow. There's a book I read my daughter called Tomorrow I'll Be Brave. And it goes through all these things. Tomorrow I'll be brave. Tomorrow I'll be creative. Tomorrow I'll be smart. Tomorrow I'll be, I'm trying to think of all these different things. But at the very end, it says, And even if I'm not one of these, I'll try my best tomorrow. And that's, I think, that same mentality of we have to look at, were we the things that we wanted to be today? And if we weren't, what do we need to change about tomorrow? That assessment has to come quickly, and it has to come often for us to continue to grow. And I think this whole conversation that we've had so far comes to a quote that I have from you. I remember hearing it. I'm not sure if I heard it in one of your presentations or if it's in one of your books. You said it. I've heard you say it. Being uncomfortable with being comfortable and being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's right.
Is something that you say. And I think through your whole journey, I see that woven through everything that you've done. There's been places where you've kind of gotten comfortable, but you said, I can't stay here. I got to move to the next level. And there's other times where you've been uncomfortable, but you've pushed through to get it done. But just want to talk a little bit about that mentality specifically in your life, but then also that mentality that a principal or an assistant principal, even in a classroom, a teacher needs to have that kind of thought process.
Yeah. You know, that's one of my many quotes. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable with being comfortable. That means when you feel like you're at a certain plateau and things are going well, right? But you got to want more, because when you want more, children do better, because they're with an ongoing motivated teacher, ongoing motivated leader, you know, whatever it is. So I don't want to get comfortable in my work. You know, that was me as a teacher, because this is, you know, that quote's not new for me. I didn't want to be comfortable as a teacher, because then I can't grow. Growing stops when I get comfortable. I didn't want to be comfortable as a principal, because once I get comfortable as a principal, growing stops. I want to be uncomfortable, because if I'm uncomfortable, then I'm going to make certain shifts. I'm going to make certain adjustments. I'm going to make certain changes, right? So, but even as a presenter, and quite frankly, I don't have any problem admitting this. I'm dealing with this right now, right? I'm dealing with the fact that I have spoken in so many places. You all have given me the opportunity to speak at places like Caesar's Palace on the Vegas Strip. I can remember when all that was, because I used to pass that place and it was just a dream, man. And I don't even know if it was a realistic dream, but you all you all blessed me with the opportunity to speak at Caesar's Palace, right? Other people gave me the opportunity to speak at the Venetian and the Palazzo and Planet Hollywood. I hope I can mention these names on here, right?
You're fine.
So what happened, and of course, as I said before, I would never mention conferences, but there was one more hotel on that strip that I said, I gotta get in there, man. You know, the rest of them, it didn't really matter, but those ones I've been at, they mattered. But there was one more, that MGM Grand, and I finally got in there this past July, keynoted. And it did something to me that I'm still wrestling with. It's like, okay, that juxtaposed with everywhere I've spoken on the globe, right? I got nowhere else I want to speak. Nowhere. As far as venues, right? Audience, you know, programs, yeah. But venues, it's like, nah, there's nothing someone could say, but Kafele, you haven't spoken here. And it's like, now I got real comfortable, right? And I'm not used to this. I've been telling people lately, I shouldn't say this publicly, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I'm exaggerating. I've been saying to people, like I'm right now on a 5-week vacation. I'm in the midst of it now. That's why I have time to do this today, right?
Oh, well, thank you.
You know,
Thank you for letting us interrupt your vacation. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I still do the Principal Kafele work, you know, because the emails keep coming. But I'm not going to the airport. I sat and watched NFL yesterday from 1:00 Eastern until the last second of football last night. Right?
Marvelous.
I said to my family, I said, y'all don't understand, man. I feel like I died and went to heaven. It's a Sunday. I'm not at the airport. I'm not in a plane, right? So,
Hmm.
so it's like, so I've been saying to folks, I don't know if I ever want to go back to an airport, meaning I don't know if I want to speak anymore, right? Because that MGM Grand did something. Like I don't have any more goals, right? Of course, the
Yeah.
goal in terms of people is there, but the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
goal in terms of venues, the next thing to conquer, that's not there anymore. There's no venue that someone can say, well, you haven't spoken here. I mean, there are places that are not realistic. Like if someone said Madison Square Garden, yeah, I'd love
You're right.
it, but that ain't gonna happen. That's not gonna happen, right? you know, the,
Innovative Schools Summit at Madison Square Garden. Maybe we can make it
the,
happen.
the
We'll see what
That's
happens.
crypto.com
close.
arena, which was the Staples
Yeah.
Center. That's I'm talking about the realistic stuff. So now I gotta find a way, because I'm comfortable now. The money's
Mhm.
good, all that kind of stuff. I gotta find a way to get uncomfortable again. Right. And that's
Yeah.
something while I'm on this vacation I'm grappling with. Because right now I am like real comfortable. Got my Medicare card in the mail, right? It's like, because I'll be 65 in October, right? So I'm like, yo, man, I'm like coasting right now, so I
Hmm.
gotta figure it out, right? I gotta figure it out. And I will, I just gotta figure it out.
You're not a person I know to be still for too long.
Nah, nah, nah. But I am loving these 5 weeks. I ain't never been off from nothing for 5 weeks.
Yeah. Rest is good. Rest is good.
Yeah.
Because during the
I think.
summer, I spoke just about every day from June till
Yeah.
the first week of September. I was in 5 states a week, every week, and it was
Wow.
brutal. And that's probably why I'm loving this 5 days so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good. Um, Let me ask you. Let's go to like leadership in the school a little bit.
Mhm.
If you could change one leadership mindset that you see that's common among principals and assistant principals today, what would be that one thing you could change?
Oh
It's a
yeah,
good question.
it's a great one because I got the answer right sitting right here. The answer is simple. The mindset that I don't have time to be the instructional leader that I know that I should be.
Hmm.
That's it. That's another mic dropper. That is it. So let's delve into it a little bit. I understand.
Wait, before you
Oh, yeah.
before you go into that a little bit more, can you identify that in a different way, that maybe educators are saying it to themselves in a different way to kind of hide away that maybe that's really what the fact is?
Yeah, yeah. That's even better. So let's use the sports analogy first. So you got like yesterday was NFL day, and tonight. And when we watch the game, we're going to see a plethora of coaches on the sidelines. And they are going to be coaching throughout the game, just as they were coaching before the game. And they'll be coaching, they'll be talking to players, if not coaching them after the game, but certainly for the rest of the week. Now, the analogy is this: the teacher is the athlete and the administrator is the coach. And we know that in schools, matter of fact, let me take it even further. I did some research years ago. I asked myself in the instructional coaching mindset, how often do NFL coaches collaborate during the season? How often are they just together collaborating, talking, meeting, discussing? And I got my answer every day, 7 days a week. Players have days off, maybe the day before the game, the day after the game, but the coaches have 0 days off. There's too much to get done. So I said, wow, look at that. So I said, now let's go back to us in school. A teacher in any given school in America can go 108, there's 180 days to round it off, 180 days of school. A teacher can go 178 days without any interaction from an administrator. And the only interaction would be that observation and that evaluation conference in the fall and in the spring, so twice yearly. And then we scratch our heads saying, why is the teacher not growing? Or why is the teacher not productive? Well, show me the athlete who's so good, the Michael Jordans of the world. Show me the athlete that's so good that when he reports the practice, the coach says, "Oh, you're a superstar. You can go back to the hotel. You can go home, or you can go off to the side and maybe shoot foul shots while the rest of us are grinding it out." It doesn't happen. The best of the best are still being coached. But then we look at school, and you got a leader, this Principal Kafele, I hear you. But do you realize what's on my plate and all this coming down from the state, this coming from central office? I don't have time to coach a teacher, to be in classrooms. Well, and then my response to them is always, but principal, but AP, those young Principal Kafeles that we talked about before, they're in those classrooms of those teachers that are not being coached. That young Principal Kafele that spent 5 years in high school that failed everything but PE, he's in your school. Perhaps with a teacher who you never see, who you've never given input outside of the evaluation. Or, said differently, you evaluated that teacher on 30 minutes of observation. You really don't know who that teacher is. You don't know what the potential is. You really don't know the flaws because you're not going to capture that in the 30 to 45-minute observation. So in terms of saying that differently, now we humanized it and said, young Principal Kafele. Because see, like with me, and this is what I do in terms of my regular presentations. I always make reference to young Principal Kafele, but my advantage was I had a reset. I had a mom who's still with us, 90 years old. I had a mom who waited patiently for me to wake up. And how do I know that so well? Because I can call my mother right now and engage her in any conversation, and her fallback, her go-to, and she will hear this and she'll laugh when she hears it. Her fallback or her go-to will be, I waited for you because I knew you were a nice kid and I knew you were going to be somebody. So I never gave up on you. I waited for you and here you are. Right. So she'll say that. If I call her right now, she'll say, if we stay on the phone for about 15 minutes, she'll say, right. But here's the thing. What about that kid that doesn't have that mom in the wings waiting for you to straighten up, right? Now you living a life of underperforming when you have a wealth of potential, but you don't have the circumstances to go into it and turn it around, turn it on. I had that mom that was waiting in the wings. So now when I make the decision, I'm ready to do something with my life. I'm ready to go to college. I got mom that's there to pay the tuition. Everybody doesn't have that. So now I'm going to that principal saying, yo, you got young Principal Kafeles all over this building. Meaning you got summa cum laude kids. You got authors in here. You got renowned folks in here, right? You got turnaround principals in here. You got teachers of the year in here and all these other professions. But if you don't have the right teacher, or at least the teacher performing at the right level, that's on you, leader. That's on you. Don't point your finger at that teacher. You got to look at that. You got to look at that. The mother fingers that's pointing back your way. That's where you got to focus your energy.
It's almost like we planned this out because the next thing I wanted to bring up was an Instagram post you made semi-recently, I think, and it says, hold on, your leadership is the number one determinant of the success or failure of your school.
That's right. That's right. And some people fight me on that one, but I'm a hold strong on it because I believe it with every fiber of my being. But I don't say it. I say that to principals when it's a principal audience, right? That your leadership is the number one determinant of the success or failure of your school. Your leadership, because I always make that distinction between leader and leadership. I got a quote that I say, I want to walk into a school and see the leadership without having to see the leader, right? So now with that particular quote, the one you quoted, Jordan, I'll go back to if I'm talking to a teacher audience, then I'm going to say that to the teacher. And probably say it to them more than I say it to the leaders. I'm saying to the teacher, once that youngster's in your classroom, not while we're in this auditorium together, but once that youngster comes into your classroom, you are the number one determinant to the success or failure of that youngster. Not parent, because parent ain't there, right? Just like I'm not going to hold you accountable when you're not home at the youngster's home. But while that youngster's with you, it's you in your hand. It's you. So you got to bring your A game as often as you can. We know that you're human, and you're not always going to bring an A game, but you got to be deliberate about bringing the best you as you can possibly bring on a regular basis. But yeah, I believe that, just like, and I'm very transparent and vulnerable, and I'll say to my audience while I'm in this room speaking to you, I'm the number one determinant in real time, just now, just for this hour. If it's a keynote, I'm the number one determinant to the success or failure of your students while I'm the one with the microphone. Once I put this mic down, all right, then it's whomever, but that's, I just want to hammer home the point to them, how important it is that when you have the mic, meaning you're the one in charge in that room, it's on you. It's on you.
Yeah. And that can feel like such a heavy weight.
Yeah.
But I think in a way it should. We should feel a little uncomfortable with that. Going back to that whole being comfortable, uncomfortable, all that stuff. But that weight can start to weigh on us. But it's important that we take ownership of what we say in the classroom, what we do in the classroom, how we lead, both as a classroom teacher or an administrator or at the district level. It just says a lot. And I'm really appreciative of you having such a passion for that to pour into all of the educators you've talked to over the 35 plus years.
Yeah.
To have that mentality. I got just one more question for you, which is leadership a title or a mindset?
Yeah, I love it. The title will be bestowed upon us, but it's got to be the mindset. Right, that when you walk into that building, in fact, before you walk in, when you're preparing mentally, when you're getting ready in the morning, right, it's got to be a mindset that I'm the leader walking in. So how will my leadership manifest today? And my leadership always began with walking that building and just ensuring that my night custodians worked up to my expectation and standard every night. It got to a point later in my career where I really could trust them and know that if that I could take the white glove and put it on anywhere, the windowsill, whatever, and see the dust. I mean, and see that there is no dust, right? But earlier on, that was my ritual. I'm walking at school because I only worked in old buildings. I didn't know anything about a new school. Old building, so it's old, but I can at least have it clean. So then from there, I go outside and I greet all the students, right? You're not coming in that building without going through me. Now, I'm not in those big mega schools. I'm in 1,000 or less. And that way I can greet all. My motto was always, no student comes in this building without going through me, right? So I can greet every student. Right, handshake, hug, embrace, whatever it is, in short words, because they're coming. They're coming over the course of an hour, so I got time. It's not like they're all coming in together. And then my morning message to launch the day. Right, there'll be no day without that. So that's my mindset, that there's certain things that I have to do to lay the foundation for the day, and then once the foundation has been laid. Now I'm depending on my teachers to handle their business, but my leadership still has to be present throughout the building, although you may not see it, right? That's here. That's an attitude.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was recently told, or I was listening to another podcast about leadership, and one of the things I was said was most of the time leaders are seen before they're heard. Is the things that they enact and they empower into the people that are working with them is seen and felt before any word comes out of that leader's mouth. And it sounds like that's what you made a really high point of doing in your schools.
Absolutely.
Is being visible, being there before any words are heard, that someone can walk into the schools that you are in and feel the culture and what was going on there and the high expectations. But I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Principal Kafele.
Well, hold on.
I'm sorry.
I actually got one more thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think it could kind of help, I guess, wrap this up too. Is what is Baruti Kafele's definition of leadership from your perspective? What does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, I need to come up with a formal definition as I've done with so many other words. But leadership to me, let me go back to that quote I just gave you, and then I'll infuse it into that. I want to see the leadership without having to see the leader. I literally tell principals when I come to your school on a consulting trip, please allow me 2 hours, an hour before an hour before the late bell, and then an hour after the late bell. Allow me to roam your building without you. Right. I want to see some things. I want to gauge some things. I want to take some things in without you being present. And that which I want to see becomes artificial because you're there as the leader of the school or an assistant principal as one of the leaders in the school. So in other words, there's a lot of things I want to take in. It's a whole list of things which I won't try to monopolize the time with, but I'll say this to you. With that quote, I'm saying that leadership is everything that happens in the building. So if one goes into a restroom, and I hope I could say this here, and there's the stench of urine, I'm thinking about the leadership. If I go into a restroom and there's graffiti on the walls, that goes back to the leadership for me. If I drive into the school, into the parking lot in the month of March, and the marquee says, enjoy the holiday break, that's the leadership. If I walk into a school and the receptionist is rude to me, that's the leadership, right? Everything about that school is the leadership. So I'm not giving. So it's not a formal definition. I guess I will probably sit here during these 5 weeks and I'll put one together since you asked me, because no one's ever asked me that before. But I will put it together to take everything I just said and put it into a definition, right? So achieving those, when we go to the concrete things that we do in the classroom in terms of achievement, leadership is raising those achievement scores via the teacher, right? So everything that happens in that school, so getting results through other people. So everything that happens in that school is leadership. And that's the way I've always approached leadership. Everything in there, anything that goes wrong, and quite frankly, the things that go right, I'm going to take credit for that, right? Because that's leadership as well, right? And everything in between, everything that goes on in that building. You think about the Innovative Schools Summit. Putting on a conference is no easy task, but that team that's in charge, it's a reflection of them. And I would say that on this podcast only because everybody that goes to those conferences knows that that's a phenomenal conference. I've never heard negative feedback ever, and I've had a lot of conversations about that conference because, quite frankly, everybody wants to speak there, right? So that comment I just made is a reflection of the leadership of those conferences. Right? Because everything about that conference is leadership. Everything. That's leadership.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I really appreciate that, honestly.
Yeah.
Someone who speaks, what is it, over 3,000 times?
Places over 35 years.
Yeah, I mean, that means a lot because we know that you've seen a lot and you've dealt with a lot and you've, been in very particular, I would say, pretty great circumstances and situations, and still say that about us. Is really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I don't have to do it to score points because I've been the innovative. I've been speaking at the conference from the beginning.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
From Atlantic City days.
Yeah. Well, I just want to make a point real quick. We did not pay Principal Kafele to say any of those things about the summit.
We did not.
We did not. But we greatly appreciate all the comments. But Will, do you have anything else, or are we wrapping this one up?
No, I mean, I'm just grateful to be a part of this episode, honestly.
Yeah.
I feel like I've kind of been able to take that mirror and take that self-evaluation, kind of be able to look at myself, even just while we were talking here. So it's been great.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Well, we really appreciate your time with us, Principal Kafele. It's been wonderful, and I know that everyone who's listening or watching definitely has left with more motivation to lead and to lead well, that they're just inspired. I know people are listening and they're inspired to go and be the number one determinant of the success of their school or their students in whatever position they are in the classroom. Real quick before we completely leave, I just want to plug you for a minute of your AP and New Principals Academy.
Absolutely.
You go live every Saturday, right? Every Saturday at what time?
Every Saturday morning, sitting right here, 10:55 Eastern Time. People ask me, why 55 and not 11? Because I do shout-outs at the first 5 minutes to the people who are logging on. Sometime I think I'm going to go to 11, but right now we're at 10:55. And we're long. We go 2 hours. We got a lot to talk about. I got different guests every week. I go solo for every first Saturday, and then the rest of the month we bring on different guests talking school leadership, AP leadership, principal leadership. And we even bring superintendents and assistant superintendents on and curriculum people. All sorts of folks come through. Some of them are very well known. A lot of them had spoken at the Innovator School Summit, a whole lot of them. And then others, just folks out here doing this work. So that's my baby. It's the work that I'm most proud of all the work that I do. And it's the one that I do for free. So join me sometime at anywhere, folks, of my platforms: Facebook at Principal Kafele, X at Principal Kafele, LinkedIn at Principal Kafele, but most importantly, AP and New Principals Academy on YouTube. I was late. I'm late to the whole AI game. I just didn't see the significance of it. So I finally put it on my phone about 2 weeks ago, and I said, okay, I got it. Now what you gonna do with it? Ask it a question about the AP and New Principals Academy. So I did. I said, what is the number one platform on YouTube for principals and assistant principals? And it gave me an answer. It said the AP and New Principals Academy, hosted by Principal Kafele.
Wow.
It said
It
said there are other platforms out there, but this platform gives more detail than any other. I said,
It really does.
Wow, that's why AI is on my phone.
Yeah.
Well, we'll link all that stuff you mentioned in the show notes, so you'll be able to find it.
Yeah,
easily.
for sure. So if you're interested in that, listeners, you can get to that. But thanks, everyone, for joining us today. We hope that you left with some new knowledge about being an educator. If you enjoyed this episode, we ask that you like and subscribe, rate, all that different stuff. Leave us a comment of how we can make this more applicable to you as an educator. We understand that being an educator is tough and hard work, but it's super rewarding when you see those students succeed. So that's it for this episode. We'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.